Hello everybody, my name's Jeremy and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Sumosys retro gaming system. It was one of those things that you see online and there's a lot of scams out there with things like this that promise emulation and promise that you can have all of these hundreds of games and it just ends up not working. I actually saw this on Facebook, which was kind of a kiss of death, but I reviewed it and I studied it very hard and decided to give it a shot. And now I wanted to share my experience with you because there's a lot of people with questions out there about how does it work and if it works and if it's the legit thing. If you're someone who has actually been studying this for a long time and you just want one more, yes, go ahead and get it, I will save you the time and say, yes, go ahead and buy it. But if you'd like to know a little bit about how it works, what games are on it, stick around. I'm going to take a few minutes and explain the system to you. It's got 4 ports on it, so it actually supports 4-player, which is nice. There's a lot of games that are 4-player on it. Let me go ahead and start it up for you. Very nice. Like I said, it does come with 2 controllers. I would spend the money and actually get the wireless controllers. Unless you're standing by your TV or you get like seating by your TV, it would really be helpful. I would also recommend that you make sure it's hooked up to a TV that has the HDMI because that's the only way you can actually hook it up to your TV. There's no RCA ports or anything. So it does come with the 2 controllers, the power supply. Mine came with a nice regular Nintendo skin and some instructions right out of the box, so it's very easy. It only takes a couple minutes. You just plug it into your TV, you put the power on, and then you're ready to go. It also comes with over 11,000 games. Now, like I said, there's a lot of scam software out there, so you have every right to be skeptical of that, but they are on here. And I'd be happy to actually explain some of these systems and what kind of games they have. As you see when you start it up, there's a spot here for favorites, which is very nice because with 11,000 games, you're probably going to want to tag a few. Let me go ahead and hook up this remote. There we go. Look at all those systems. Now I'm going to start with MAME, which is what does the arcade. There's 2,098 arcade games. There is 557 Atari 2600 games. There are 65 Atari 7800 games, 156 ColecoVision, 33 of the awesome Vectrex. There are 284 Turbografix16. There's 5 of the Supergraphics card. Your regular Nintendo, there are 1,217 regular Nintendo games. There's also 173 of the Nintendo Famicom disk system, 1,024 of the Super Nintendo, 79 Nintendo 64 games, 78 Sega SG-1000 games. The Sega Master System has 363. The Sega Genesis has 904, the Genesis 32X has 36, 136 Neo Geo. There are only 8 games for the PlayStation. The Commodore Amiga has 310. When you get your handhelds, there's 84 Lynx games. There's 52 Game & Watch, 622 Game Boy games. And luckily they added the Virtual Boy on here. There's 28 of those games. There are 606 Game Boy Color games. And there are 1,083 Game Boy Advance games. 295 of the Game Gear. The Neo Geo Pocket has 76. 44 of the Wonder Swan. 30 Wonder Swan Color. And then we get back to favorites. So I did test a lot of these. I wanted to make sure that not only did I test every system, but I really went and tested a lot of the arcade hits as well. So you're going to see that this system is generally generation 2 through 4. So if you're looking for games from the late 70s to the mid 90s, this is definitely going to be the system for you. It does have some Generation 5, like the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation, but it's a little bit limited. But let's go ahead and get going here with the Atari 2600. I did play Adventure. I played the really crappy Pac-Man game, Empire Strikes Back. It emulates perfectly. The only downer is there are certain games, the Atari used to have the paddle controller along with the regular controller, and certain games like Kaboom or Warlords or Astro Blast, it would probably go better with that. I would recommend, since there's so many games here, getting yourself a good wireless controller, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of other gaming. If you're just going to stick to Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, these Super Nintendo controllers will probably do. But certainly if you want to really play all of these and get into the arcade, and definitely Nintendo 64, you're going to want to maybe get some kind of a Wingman controller, and then you can actually set the input and the buttons to each of these systems. It's really cool. So the Atari 2600 emulated really well. All the games that you would want are on there with 557. The Atari 7800, that system, obviously it emulated well. It's not a very good system, but I did do Mario Brothers. There's a good Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man port on there, but you're gonna be playing probably Miss Pac-Man on the arcade anyways. There's a hilariously bad Double Dragon port on there, which I just say you should definitely play it and have some fun. But it definitely emulates well. Everything worked perfectly. The ColecoVision is on here as well. There is a lot of different games, like a crappy Zaxxon game. There's the Star Wars arcade game, which is good. There's the Rocky Balboa boxing. I tested Q*bert. Again, it's something you're probably going to want to play on the arcade anyways, but it's on here. It's got slightly better versions of Pitfall and Frogger. Sadly, there's no Commodore 64 emulation on here, but it does have some of those games like Boulder Dash, Oil's Well, and BC Quest for Tires. I tested all those and they worked perfectly. Sadly, there's no Intellivision on here, but you do have Atari 2600 and the ColecoVision from that generation. The Vectrex is something that's kind of cool. It retailed for what in today's dollars would be $500. It was kind of a disaster at the time. When you actually play it, it's kind of cool. It uses vector graphics instead of the raster graphics, which is kind of nice, but when I went through all of these, I knew the two it was famous for was Armor Attack, and there was supposed to be a really decent Star Wars arcade. Sadly, it's kind of missing from here. Even though this was a commercial failure, it's kind of fun to play. You're going to find a lot of better options on Atari, but the Vectrex is pretty cool. The Turbografix16, I tested a bunch of games on here, including Bonk. Works perfectly well. I probably tested about 10 games, and everything seemed to emulate perfect, so it's a nice addition. I'm not exactly sure what this Supergraphics PC engine is. It might be some kind of Japanese version of the Turbografx, but you just got 5 games on here. Here's what everyone will be looking for, which is the regular Nintendo system. If you have a game that you used to play when you were a kid, I guarantee that it's going to be on here. It was something else I looked for, was everything actually included? And everything that I could think of, all the games that were popular, or even some of the kind of obscure ones, they were definitely on here. So it's a lot of fun. I went through so many games, so definitely take your time and come to the Nintendo and play something like, Aussie Rules Footy. That looks like fun. There's the Famicom disk system. For some reason, Nintendo in the mid-'80s thought that these floppy disks were going to be the future, so they started to make them, but it kind of crashed. It's cool because it gives you a Japanese version on some of these games. Like this one, the Akamaju Dracula, is actually just Castlevania. There's a whole bunch of others that you can see on here as well. Like this Eggerland is obviously Adventures of Lolo. It's just a kind of strange version of it. So it's cool to see that on there. There's also a whole lot of Super Nintendo games. Again, if you had a Super Nintendo game that you loved, if you really want to bust out ActRaiser or something, it's going to be on here. I like to test out some of the harder games, some of the ones that kind of stretch the system a little bit more. Like Super Metroid I played a lot, and Super Punch-Out, and Super Star Wars. And I want to show you here as well, if you're going to a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, you probably don't want to have to scroll through all of these games to get to the one that you're looking for. It does speed up after a while, which is nice, but you can just jump to a letter, and then let's just jump to S, and then boom. Then you can actually go and find your Secret of Mana and go ahead and play it. Like I said, generations 2 through 4 are well represented here. When we get to generation 5 with the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation, I'll tell you, the emulation, the size of these files I know is big, so they probably couldn't cram a lot on here. But again, I would just think of this as a system that's really good for late 70s to mid 90s, and that these games for the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation are just kind of bonus games. The good news is, I mean, it's got some good games on here. It's got Mario 64, Super Smash Brothers, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. It's got the awesome Mario Kart 64 shown here, and Paper Mario. Sadly, it does not have GoldenEye, or Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark's missing, no Star Fox 64. There's none of the Mario Party games on here. So, it's kind of sad. You know, you'd think they would probably make some room for something like a GoldenEye or an Ocarina of Time, two of the best games ever. But, you know, who wants to play Majora's Mask when you can play Blues Brothers 2000? So it's a little bit disappointing. The PlayStation's even more disappointing because that's only got 9 games on it. But, see, it's got Nuclear Strike 64, which I don't need to play because I have War Games on my ColecoVision now. There's the Sega SG-1000. It's a pretty lousy system. It was Sega's first run at a system, and boy, does it show. It's a bunch of crappy games. I don't know, maybe some of you might have had this when you were a kid. I doubt it. But it emulates just fine, and who wouldn't want to play Dragon Wang? Real game, right on this system. Then there's the Sega Master System. I tested this out. Alex Kidd works perfectly. It's not a bad system. It's not the Nintendo, but it does work rather well. Same thing with the Sega Genesis. All of the games that you would want would be on here. I tested Aladdin. I tested Sonic. Duke Nukem 3D. I tested all of those, and they work just fine. This is a very, very good system. Just like the Nintendo 64, it's got all the games that you would want, including this game, Awesome Possum Kicks Dr. Machino's Butt. I haven't tried it yet, but it does sound fun. Mortal Kombat 1 through 3, NBA Jam. It's got Road Rash. Of course, it's got the fantastic Moonwalker with Michael Jackson. Sega Genesis 32X is on here as well. This is a fantastic little system. It's just some updated graphics for the Genesis. I tested Virtua Fighter and NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat 2, Doom, Primal Rage. Pretty decent games, and they work really well. I never had a Neo Geo. Obviously, they were going for fighting games with their system. That's pretty much all you're going to find on here, but it does emulate well, so if you had a Neo Geo, you won't be disappointed. PlayStation, here we go. Finally, you can play some Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil 2, Gran Turismo. Nope, sorry, they're not on here. They do have the excellent Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and if you like Crash Bandicoot, I mean, that's on here. Again, these files are huge. I would say even bigger than the Nintendo 64. You have to think of all the room that would take to go on a disc, and they can't fit that many on the Symosis. So just a little spattering of some PlayStation games, a little bonus. The Commodore Amiga 1200. I would tell you how this emulated, but here is the one downer of this system that I found. Every time I tried to load a Commodore Amiga 1200 game, it crashed. I was a little disappointed with that. Now sure, It's like when you buy a bundle of, I would say, action movies, and it's the one crappy action movie that you're never going to watch anyways. I doubt a lot of people are going to get this for the Commodore Amiga 1200, but I really hope that they're going to do an update on this that will fix that problem. Now that we get into the handheld, the battery killer that is the Lynx works perfectly well. All the games that you might have played if you actually had that system are on here. I tested quite a few on all of these handhelds. It's actually really good emulation. The Game & Watch is something that's really cool. You probably remember some of these games if you were a kid in the 80s. They look really, really bad now. Let me go ahead and load one up here so I can show you what happens when you load one up. Actually, it looks just like the system itself, which is pretty cool to have that on your TV. I don't know, I was a kid from the 80s, so when I see this, there's a lot of nostalgia. It's a lot of fun to see. So let's go back, finish this off. Tons of Game Boy games, emulate perfectly. Of course, any that you might have loved, it's going to be here. I tested Metroid 2 for a while and it worked very well. Oh, wonderful, the Virtual Boy's here. I have to admit, sadly, I did have this back in the 90s. I was one of those kids that fell for it and bought this. I'm going to admit, I kind of loved it. It wasn't great, but it was a lot of fun at the time because I thought it was next generation technology. Here's the one thing about this Virtual Boy emulation. There are some okay games on here. There was one really good game for the Virtual Boy, and that was Wario. Sadly, it is missing. I don't understand that at all. Again, this does have a spot where you can hook up the network cable and you can do updates to this. I've already reached out to them and said, hey, my Commodore Amiga doesn't work, and can you throw Wario on the Virtual Boy for me? We'll see how that goes. Game Boy Color has a whole ton of games as well. It's a very, very fun system. Tested a bunch of these and it works well. This is such a solid little handheld. Unfortunately, there's no DS on here, but this Game Boy Advance, man, there's so many games on here. So many different genres, everything from 007, or you could play Uno and Skip-Bo. It had the Super Mario All-Stars on here. So many games. It's a fantastic system. And luckily for you, it emulates really well on here. Same thing with the Game Gear. It works well. Neo Geo Pocket worked. The Wonder Swan worked. The Wonder Swan Color worked. And here we go back to the favorites. Again, it's nice to save some of these. Mine came preloaded with some of these. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe they were trying to guess what I would like, or maybe there's just some that they had in here. It kind of worked to our advantage because there was a Spider-Man game in here that my son has been dying to play ever since I got it, so we've been playing that over and over again. Now let's go to the arcade emulation. Obviously, this is really a mixed bag with the thousands of games that are on here. I tested as many as I could. The only problem I ran into was Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. The sound was a little low on it, and there's really no way to adjust that. I tested Street Fighter, I tested NBA Jam. I had heard some reports that certain games like NBA Jam, there was a little bit of a lag, but you can fix that in the system with a predictive index where you can actually switch it so it runs a little faster. If anyone has any questions on this system and how to do certain things on it, I'd be happy to answer them. One other great thing about this system is it does have the save state feature. You can have up to, I believe, 10 on each game. And that is fantastic because you can save your game at any point in the game. You save the state and it locks it right there. So if you have to go to the bathroom or even if you have to leave, you don't have to wait for a save point or anything like that. You just load up the save and you save it, and then whenever you come back to it, you go back to that exact same spot, and it's got it on all the games here. It's a fantastic feature. This also does have cheats as well. So on the games that will take them, you can put on Game Genie codes or Game Shark. You can have a lot of fun with that. So everything that's great about emulation is in this system, and I'm very, very pleased with it. There's a couple quirks with it. Like, I don't understand why they would put Hogan's Alley or Duck Hunt on here. It's not like I can hook up a zapper to it, and these new TVs don't work with the zapper anyways. I mean, it's kind of cool to load them up, but it's one of the sad things. But I really thought about, all right, is this going to be worth it to whoever wants to buy it? And I would say, if you're a fan of any of these systems, just the regular Nintendo, certainly regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo, or the Sega Genesis, it's going to be worth it. If you're a gamer who loves games from the 1970s to the 1990s, it's a great buy for you. Because you figure, even if you don't have a lot of time, there are probably at least 500 games that you would enjoy on here. And at that point, you're talking pennies a game. I have to say, despite a couple of flaws, I was very, very pleased with this, and I was very happily surprised with how great this works. It's been a few days now, and I keep waiting for something to go wrong, and if for any reason something changes, I will update people, but I've played this a lot now. My son has played this a lot. We've played it together, and it's fantastic. It does exactly what it says it will do. So it's a definite thumbs up, and I highly recommend buying it. I recommend spending a few extra dollars to get the wireless as well. Even if you do sit by your TV, it's just a lot easier, and the wireless works really well. The battery on the wireless Super Nintendo controller, I played it all day on Saturday, from the time I unboxed it in the early afternoon all the way till night. My friend Greg came over, we played a lot of Road Rash, so the battery life obviously is very good, and it can charge on any USB, even the things that you plug into the wall. Again, if you have any questions on this, if there's any game you want me to test, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I will also give you guys links to the Symosis website. They also have a list of all the games on that website. You just click on Super Nintendo, and they will actually have a list of all the games that are on there. So with that, I can't wait to go play some more games. It's kind of late now, but I'm sure I will get to it. And I hope you guys got a lot out of this, and thank you for watching.